Without further ado, though, I am going to start in with panelist introductions. Feel free to raise your hand at any time if you have questions. It's a small group, so we can accommodate them. There will also be a chance afterwards to make sure that you guys can raise any questions that I forget to ask. Okay? Great. Well, without further ado, I thought what we would do is maybe start with some personal intros to you individually, and then also to the companies and the role that you serve them. Oliver, you've got probably the most dynamic role at the moment out of everybody, so why don't we start with our big rocket?
I'm the Schrodinger's cat of startup and corporate. I exist in both worlds at the moment.
Yeah.
For one, I'm sort of a bit still of an entrepreneur in residence at Swiss Re, helping out on some of the projects, and in transition to go full-time into my own startup where I'm the CEO of ImBurse, and we're in the payment space, or transaction space. Happy to tell you more about that after the meeting, but very much focusing on developing that business and connections with corporates. And today, I guess, is part of that experience of having gone from idea to prototype to investment and now to implementations and POCs and partnerships with corporates.
And you've worked with quite a lot on the corporate side in the past 2 years as well, right?
Yes.
Evaluating accelerators, working with others.
Through the role in entrepreneur in residence at Swiss Re is to drive some of that engagement and partnership models.
Yeah. Great. Barbara?
Hi, my name is Harper. I work with Zurich Insurance and I'm in business development and new ventures. So right now my focus is very much on integrating new businesses and startups that we acquire or that we partner with into the Zurich group. So it's very practical, hands-on. But for the last 3 years, I've worked on developing an innovation strategy and an innovation approach for Zurich, and really thinking through how a large corporate can start working more and more with innovative startups. And my background is in strategy and consulting.
Great, thanks. Bernard?
My name is Bernard, and I'm a Brit who chose to live in Switzerland because I like skiing. And I started a business called DailyFinTech, which is somewhere between a news business and a think tank. It's decentralized. We've got 8 different authors writing on specialist subjects all over the world. So, for example, there's a lot here about insurance. Our insurance guy happens to be based in Los Angeles, called Stephen Golston. He writes every Thursday. And we monetize through advisory services rather than through advertising, because advertising doesn't work when you're in a niche market.
I guess really the first question is, the title of the event is POCs or Proof of Concepts. Maybe to level the field here a bit, can you guys describe what exactly you usually mean when we talk about a POC? Perhaps Barbara, you've got a quite specific experience of having worked with these. How would you explain what a POC is?
So I was just smiling because I think our definition of POC has gone from doing something like almost like a mock-up within 2 weeks to doing a fully fledged project, and this is a bit also the transformation we have gone through as a group. But for me, a proof of concept is really working with a startup on a very, very concrete use case that is defined together with by your business sponsor, and really showing a concrete output that is more than the typical PowerPoint presentations that we were used to from the past, but really a concrete demo or like a product at the end of a couple of weeks where everybody can really see what it is that we're talking about and how to implement. And the next step is then really implementing this in the business. So something much, much, much more concrete than a high-level PowerPoint presentation, which is what we were used to from the past.
Yeah, I'll connect right onto that, and I think it's important to differentiate between pilot and POC, because a pilot generally is like, let's try something out. It exists in that instance. You do something, you evaluate it, and then you see how you progress. My experience and learning now around a POC has to be very well defined, that there is a business case and we are going to do something, but a POC indicates a gate where you get to pivot the idea. When you start a POC, you must already define what qualifies a successful POC, and if that is reached, the understanding should be between the company and the startup that the partnership will continue towards developing what was planned. So to Barbara's point, there should be a business opportunity here and a business plan and everything. And there's a POC is basically just a checkpoint and gives you the opportunity to pivot and say, okay, that didn't quite work out, but it will work like this. So in that sense, I really urge people to differentiate between pilots and POCs in that sense.
I guess you've seen similar in your experience, right?
I have, and it's interesting to hear it from that perspective, Barbara, because I've heard it more from the point of view of the vendor trying to sell something to a big institution. And there is obviously the point where, you know, the salesman is saying, this can do anything.
Exactly.
You know, and then you need to say, well, can you prove that to me? But the salesman, if they're smart, is also saying, well, just put a bit of money up to make sure you're serious, because otherwise I'll spend an awful lot of time proving to you this works, and at the end of it you say, well, thanks very much, but no thanks. So to me, proof of concept is kind of the start of a serious negotiation, where some money is put up by the customer, and the vendor does a lot of work to prove that, you know, what they say is possible really is possible.
I was going to ask that. I guess maybe a way to narrow down the question is, when is the right time and when is the wrong time to be getting involved in a POC from your experience?
May I add on to what you just said, because I absolutely agree with what you said, and I think like the vendors are usually extremely good salesmen, and you know, as a corporate, what tends to happen is you start engaging with the startup, you're super impressed by what you see, and you're like, wow, we need to try this. But then very often, it might not be the actual thing that the business, like it might not be really on point to what your business in a particular country needs right at that point in time. And that's why what I was trying to say before, why for us, what we have learned is the most critical thing is always to have a business sponsor from the business behind it who knows exactly what he wants, who has a very, very clear use case in mind. And then I think the first round of negotiations is usually, like these startups have like an amazing product, but how can they tailor it to our specific needs? Because from their perspective, and often like the smaller they are, the less inclined they are to like say like customize the product, because they would like to sell, the thing is they want to sell you something, like their product, but as a corporate you need to see like, do you actually need that product, or how flexible are they in terms of developing what we really need. And for us this has been the point of negotiation, where even I think before agreeing on a proof of concept, this has been the most critical element for us. Do we really have a business sponsor who's behind it, and are we working with a startup that is willing to provide what we need and not what they have off the shelf?
I guess that's